Greetings from HeartCare Foundation of India. I am Dr. K.K. Agarwal, and welcome to our important discussion on the differential diagnosis of respiratory disorders during COVID-19 times. When we talk about an overview of the respiratory disorders, there are a plethora of bacterial and viruses which can cause acute influenza-like illness, which can be upper respiratory, lower respiratory. When we say upper respiratory, it involves the nose. There is cough, fever, and there is a nasal discharge or a sneezing. It can involve the vocal cord, and then there can be fever with cough and breathlessness, means involving the lower respiratory tract infection. Clinically, this can cause acute bronchitis, chronic bronchitis, common cold, influenza, and other respiratory distress syndrome. Clinically, they all are classified as influenza-like illnesses, and sometimes it may be very difficult to differentiate amongst them. We know streptococcal sore throat, tonsillitis, influenza, coronaviruses, respiratory syncytial viruses. Differential diagnosis may be very difficult clinically sometimes. So when we talk about the classification of upper versus lower, the upper respiratory tract will involve the nose, the sinuses, the pharynx, the larynx, and the larger airways. That means this patient may have common cold, presenting without fever. They may have a flu-like illness presenting with fever and involvement of nose. There may be hoarseness of voice, and there may be involvement of larger airway. And these people may have also sore throat represented by a pharynx. Normally, we know fever with sore throat is more bacterial, tonsillitis is more bacterial, but when the nose are involved, we know it is influenza-like viral illness. We know that 85% of them are viral when we talk about upper respiratory infection. These can be influenza virus, adenovirus, enterovirus. It can even be a non-COVID coronavirus and respiratory syncytial virus. All can be tested by doing a biofire profile of a throat swab. Bacteria which can cause maybe around 15% of acute pharyngitis, and most common are streptococcal infection and streptococcal pyogens. So what are the risk factors for upper respiratory tract infection? Usually a close contact, which you will see them in schools and daycare centers. The medical disorder, people with asthma, allergic rhinitis, they are more prone to get upper respiratory tract infection. Pollution may also exaggerate. Smoking can also complicate these issues, specifically acute and chronic bronchitis. Immunosuppression, patients with cystic fibrosis, uncommon in India but does occur. HIV positive patients, patients on steroids, patients post-transplant patients, post-splenectomy patients, these are the ones who are high risk and requires more attention. The anatomical anomalies, which include facial dysmorphic changes or nasal polyposis, increases the risk of URI. Specifically, remember nasal polyps. These are the patients who may be allergic to aspirin also. Quite often, we have to differentiate a patient between influenza, a simple common cold, and an allergic syndrome. Simple way is, if you have cough, you know it is pollution. If it is cough and cold, we say this is a common cold. If it is cough and cold with fever, we know it is flu. And if it is without cold, only cough and fever, we know it is a corona-like illness. And if there is only a sore throat with fever, we know this is bacterial. That's a rough way. But if I have to see in this table which you are seeing in front of you, fever is rare in common cold, and it is usual in influenza, and in allergic syndromes, it may or may not be present. So, but I still say the best way is to find out is to differentiate is that absence of fever would mean it's an allergy. Allergy will always have nasal involvement and plus minus eye involvement. And if you have a fever with cough and breathlessness, it's COVID-like illness. If you have fever with cough and nasal and sinus symptoms, it is viral in origin. So let's go back and differentiate the influenza, flu, and common cold. In influenza, the incubation period is 1 to 4 days. In COVID, we know it is 2 to 14 days. And the time interval between symptom onset is estimated to be 3 to 4 days. The viral shedding can occur 1 day before the onset of symptoms. In COVID, it is 2 days. Influenza can be transferred from human by direct contact, indirect contact, droplets, or aerosolization. Many evidence-based data suggest that direct contact and droplet transfer are the predominant modes of transmission in influenza. When it comes to common cold, which is because of rhinovirus, adenovirus, parainfluenza virus, respiratory syncytial virus, etc., these are the pathogens which are responsible for common cold. Out of this, rhinovirus, which is the most common cause of common cold and causes up to 80% of the respiratory symptoms. The symptoms may begin as soon as 10 to 12 hours after inoculation. That means you have a history of exposure and by evening you get it. Symptoms, the mean duration of symptoms is 7 to 10 days, but symptoms can persist as long as 3 weeks. The normal formula is 7 days versus 1 week. Nasal mucosa infection and host subsequent inflammatory response lead to nasal blockage and rhinorrhea, whereas cholinergic stimulation leads to mucus production and sneezing. These are the people, you will find them all the time sneezing and producing a lot of nasal secretions. When we compare a cold versus flu, in general, the flu is worse than the common cold and symptoms are more intense. COVID now is more severe than flu. So COVID more severe than flu, flu more severe than cold. Colds are usually milder than flu, as I have said. People with colds are more likely to have runny or stuffy nose. We have already discussed. Cold generally do not result in serious health problems such as pneumonia, bacterial infection, or hospitalization. They are self-limiting. Flu, however, can have higher complications like H1N1 pneumonia, as we see also them in coronaviruses. And tests usually must be done within the first few days. Preferably, if the treatment is started in the first 48 hours, the response is the best. You can see them now, all what I have talked about in the diagram where it talks about sign and symptoms between cold and flu. When it comes to diagnosis, acute upper respiratory tract infection, which is rhinitis, which is pharyngitis, tonsillitis, and laryngitis. Clinically, they present with cough, sore throat, runny nose, and nasal congestions, headache, body ache, low or high-grade fever, sneezing, malaise, and myalgias. They need testing. You need a throat swab, which can be done for a biofire for all the viruses, or it can be only H1N1 test. And they can also be a simple blood test can help you move, because most of the viral disorders, ESR will be normal, CRP will be normal, they will have high lymphocyte count. On the contrary, if you are suspecting a patient with fever and breathlessness or fever with cough in a COVID-like situation, ESR will be high and they will have a high CRP and they may have leukopenia and lymphopenia in such cases. These are the parameters you may be able to differentiate clinically. And when you have a dry, angry looking throat clinically and with a submandibular painful lymphadenopathy or pain while deglutition, you know you are missing a streptococcal sore throat. And whenever you get nasal involvement of a sinus involvement, take it for granted practically that you are dealing with a viral infection. And if it is H1N1, it needs early oseltamivir group of drugs. And if it is late, then only symptomatic treatment will be effective. When it comes to the rapid tests are also available for bacterial pharyngitis, specifically when we are talking about streptococcal sore throat. A rapid test will help us because such children needs to be isolated for at least 12 hours. When testing for influenza specimen, we need to collect the close as early as possible, and we need to have a nasopharyngeal specimen. Influenza needs to be tested. If you're suspecting influenza in an influenza season where both A and B are circulating, you need to know whom to start oseltamivir because it has to be started in the first 48 hours. Therefore, early testing is required. And those patients who require hospitalization, pregnancy, high-risk individuals, specifically patients with the diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, such cases will need early testing because you need to isolate them and you need to treat them differently. And for diagnosis, we need to understand all about its interpretation. So what are the diagnostic tests for influenza? Diagnostic tests available for influenza are a respiratory specimen, and you can do a molecular assays, which include rapid molecular assays, RT-PCR, we are doing, everybody knows RT-PCR from the COVID-19 era, and other nucleic acid amplification tests and antigen detection tests, including rapid antigen diagnostic tests and immunofluorescent tests. So therefore, talk to your pathologist and decide what best specimen to set, what best test to do. Viral culture is important for a public health importance, but they may not provide you any clue for the management. Remember, in a COVID era, we are not testing COVID-19 virus culture. That can be dangerous. Sensitivity and specificity of any test for the influenza virus in respiratory specimens might vary by the type of testing method and specific tests used. And it will vary depending upon which lab it is, lab handling and other things. The predictive value of an influenza virus in the patient population and the specific test characteristics compared to a gold standard comparison is the rule. Therefore, molecular assay are usually done when you compare with the standard specimens. Results of the diagnostic test should be evaluated in the context of other clinical and epidemiological phenomena. A, testing is required. B, you need to assess its and do its interpretation properly. And C, you need to rightly choose which test to be done in what clinical settings. What are the guidelines from NCDC regarding influenza testing? Patients should be assessed for categorization. Those patients falling under the category A and B do not require hospitalization. Remember, there are criteria available whom to admit, whom not to admit. The category C patient should be immediately hospitalized. A, course of illness, fever and systemic symptoms usually last for 3 days. Unlike COVID, where they may last for 2 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks, occasionally for 5 to 8 days. And the symptoms gradually diminish. Cough and malaise may persist, however, for more than 2 weeks. Full recovery may take 1 to 2 weeks or longer, especially in the elderly and immunocompromised persons. Recommendations for investigations, routine investigation required for the evaluation, I said, ESR, C-reactive protein, total leukocytic count, lymphocytic count in particular. And if you are suspecting and want to rule out a COVID, you may do a D-dimer and you may do a LDH test and you may do a pro-BNP test. And troponin I if you are suspecting a cardiac involvement. So as far as the confirmation of a seasonal flu is concerned, we have RT-PCR and we know there are RT-PCR established labs in India. Get it done from there, and isolation of the virus in culture in the virology labs. When it comes to an allergic rhinitis, patient is only sneezing, there is no fever, and you want to diagnose such cases, obtain an history of allergen. Allergy will always be due to a protein. So look for what protein he has ingested. Look for food allergies, look for pollen allergies, look for history, whether he is having allergy to a particular season, allergic to a particular place. There may be people who are allergic in Delhi and not in Bangalore, and vice versa, or Delhi, Chandigarh, and vice versa, depending upon the pollens in that particular area. When it comes to, you may also see the clinical type of a history, duration, frequency, exacerbation factors, timings, whether it is early phase, late phase. Early phase usually will be an immediate hypersensitivity reaction. It can also be a delayed hypersensitivity reaction occurring after 3 to 4 hours. It may be Arthus-like reaction which may appear and persist and disappear in 3 to 4 days. And such types of patients require different treatment because you will decide whether you need to give them antihistaminic or whether you need to start them with steroids or not. When we come to diagnosis of allergy, allergic children may have the classical allergic salute, rubbing their nose upwards, leading to a crease across the nasal bridge, and may also have an extra skin fold or line under their lower eyelids. Allergic shyness or dark eye shadows beneath the lower eyelid caused by fluid accumulation in the infraorbital groove are typical of childhood allergic rhinitis, being darker in severe chronic allergic rhinitis. Frequently, throat cleaning or hoarseness can be another feature. Internal nasal examination by otoscope or endoscope is essential to rule out alternatives such as nasal polyps. Such people with nasal polyps may also complain of allergy to aspirin. When we talk about diagnosis of allergies and we continue with investigations, confirmation of diagnosis of allergic rhinitis is done through specific IgE reactions, reactivity to airborne allergens relevant to the history, and this can be done by a skin pricking test or by a blood test specific checking the serum specific IgE levels. But this information is important in environmental control measures and allergen specific immunotherapy. But remember that all tests should be done in the light of the history, since both false positive and false negative cases can occur. If IgE tests are unavailable, then a possible alternative is a trial of anti-allergic therapy using an intranasal patency, and lung function may be helpful in cases of persistent rhinitis or where there are any chest symptoms. So you can have alternative testings available to you. How to identify specific allergens? For allergic immunotherapy of patients with IgE mediated respiratory allergic disorders, identification of specific causative allergen is of paramount importance. Patient's history and clinical examination are the primary modalities for identification of an allergic etiology. The in vitro and in vivo diagnostic tests recommended are in vitro skin test. I've already spoken about it, prick and intradermal. It can be mucosal challenge test like bronchial and nasal challenge. Double-blind placebo-controlled food challenge can be done. In vivo tests can be RAS test, ELISA test, and multi-allergen screening assays. Let's now summarize the clinical pearls. Upper respiratory tract infections involve the nose, sinuses, pharynx, larynx, and the larger airway. Lower respiratory tract will have more of a cough with progressive breathlessness. Cold generally do not result in serious health problems, while flu can have serious associated symptoms. Tests usually must be done within the first few days of illness, as if you want antiviral, it has to be effective in the first 48 hours. Confirmation of seasonal influenza is indicated for category C patients and should be done through real-time RT-PCR tests, and we also need to check for viral neutralizing antibodies, viral specific neutralizing antibodies. Allergy confirmation is based on detailed history, clinical history, examination, and investigation, and identification of causative allergen is extremely important for allergic immunotherapy of the patients. To summarize, that we need to differentiate between every case who is presenting with respiratory symptom. Are we dealing with a cold? Are we dealing with an allergy? Are we dealing with a acute influenza-like illness? Or are we dealing with a lower respiratory tract infection? Now we call them as SARI, serious acute respiratory tract infection. Thank you very much. I hope you like the academic CMA. Thank you.